Hello and welcome to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign and today we are going to go over a full review of Cyberpunk 2077. I'd just like to add that there will be spoilers in this review, so you have been warned. This will be my first ever full review of a game, and the only one I did was a long time ago for Octopath Traveler. Great game if you haven't played it already though. Let me start by saying that I had a lot of fun playing this game, but there are some definite problems that I had whilst playing through it. I'm not just talking about the various bugs, because honestly, I only saw one in my entire playthrough. Granted, it was a pretty bad bug that caused me not to get XP for an entire 8-hour play session, and me not noticing because I was so engrossed in the stories and the characters in the game. Luckily, it didn't really affect my gameplay difficulty playing on hard, because stealth pistol one-shots are still one-shots. So I guess we should start talking about the story aspect of Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was definitely well written, but was it masterpiece? I don't think so. But it's definitely up there. A lot of what was happening in the story has been done 100 times before in a lot of RPGs, and trust me when I say this, I have literally played them all. RPGs are my thing, and the stories in RPGs are why I'm so addicted to them, if you couldn't tell by my channel name. What was different about Cyberpunk's story was the shock factor. Stories based on subjects that are taboo in most societies. Rape, child porn, child killers, among many other gruesome acts that most companies wouldn't even dream of adding to their games. But is that enough to make it one of the all-time best stories of an RPG? Again, I don't think so. There were definitely moments of emotion, like when you get the call from Judy to go to her apartment and find Evelyn in a bathtub with her wrists open, dead. The scene with Jackie in the car after the botched heist had me a little blurry-eyed. But even with Jackie, you really didn't get to know him. You're just told this is your best friend, deal with it. The fast-paced action all the way throughout the story never really slowed down. Call after call, mission after mission, you always had something to do, and the writers did a really good job of setting the tone for each mission. And the artists did a great job of conveying those stories in a beautiful fashion visually. What pissed me off most about the story was the time skip. While time skips can be done really well in some stories, like going from a kid in Fallout 3 to an adult when you leave the vault, literally time skipping the entire journey to the top was ridiculous. It kept me thinking, why does everyone know me? Why does everyone think I'm the best? I went from 0 to 100 in seconds, and it really made me feel like I skipped 6 chapters in a book and was trying to figure out why or how everything was happening. I don't know if this was just a way to get a sellable DLC out there in a few months where you can actually run through that part of the game, but in my opinion it definitely was not a good decision. The time skip cinematic did a really bad job of setting the tone. The journey to the top is one of the best aspects of any RPG, growing from nobody to somebody. All I felt like I was doing in Cyberpunk was putting points in skills, with no actual growth of character. He starts as a badass and ends as a badass, or not, depending on your choice. You never really have any fear or show any weakness throughout the entire game, at least until you start to die towards the end of the game and the one moment where you beg Vic to save you when you find out what's happening to you. The romances in the game were pretty decent. Panam was quite an annoying character at first and seemed to only really care about herself, but as you get to know her, she really grows into a character you can care about. The writers did a fantastic job of the character growth when it comes to the NPCs, but fell flat with the main character. Usually it's the other way around, so it does make a change. There were some downright hilarious side quests. The flaming crotch guy had me laughing for a good 5 minutes, and many other moments in the game where it had me laughing, getting angry, and really feeling bad for certain characters. So now we get onto the choices in the game. Well, the game was literally promoted as a game that your actions affect how the game plays out. Well, that was somewhat of a lie. All it really did was change some flavor text on the first answer and would continue exactly the same route as any other way of saying it. I went through the game killing, telling people to screw themselves, agreeing with them, and no matter what I did, it always would end up the same through the main story. It literally was the same all the way through no matter what you chose. The only real choices you had were what life path you chose, which gave you one of 3 different starting narratives and some flavor text responses to your flavor text life path conversation choices. The second choice is right at the end of the game where you can choose your fate, which has multiple different endings and multiple different ways of doing the last mission. I went through the end getting the help of Panam and the Aldecaldos because of my love interest. I mean, why wouldn't you? The ending was nice and you did get some feels out of it, but then the credits ruined it for me. I was literally with them. I left Night City and joined them, and I had Mitch send me a video message asking me what I'm doing, how much he missed me, and wished I was with them. I was just sitting there kind of like, I live with you. Johnny was an arsehole, who no matter what came up, you really only ever had the choice to call him an arsehole. The writing for the interactions with this character were terrible and probably my most hated in the game. It was like the writers were trying their hardest to get you to hate him. One minute you're saying he's not a bad guy and you two are becoming friends, then you're doing a side mission where you're saying he's an arsehole again. There was no syncing with the progress of your story and the characters themselves. I just wanted to skip literally everything to do with him. I had literally no interest in it, which ruined the ending because I literally only had one choice. I hated the character, so why would I ever try to save him? I even tried my best to become friends with him for a second playthrough, doing all his side quests and everything with him. And still, sometimes the only choice was to tell him he's an arsehole and you hate him. Like there was literally no other conversational option. It was a very weird choice and turn of events for me. So let's move on to the gameplay itself. Not much to really talk about here. There is nothing new to the genre of RPGs. Even cyberware has been done in games before. The melee system at first for me was terrible. Not having a third person view really restricted what you could see in melee. Obviously not including the mantis blades and monowire. The mantis being able to jump to a target and annihilate them, and the monowire having a decent range for a melee weapon. While I was using swords, I just felt like I was running at a target and just spamming the left click until there was nothing on the screen anymore. As I moved on to play with the pistols and going the one-shot headshot stealth pistol build, I had a lot more fun. And for some reason, nearly every iconic weapon and story weapon I was given was a pistol. There are certainly a lot of them. It wasn't until I started my second playthrough and went full sword build, body, reflexes and tech that I really started to have some fun with this build. Not sure what changed from my first playthrough where I hated it to my second, but I'm having a blast with the samurai build that I'm currently playing. But it still hasn't changed the fact that you're just a berserker running around and slashing until you stop hearing bullets. The gunplay, especially the pistols, is a lot of fun as I've said. Coupled with the stealth mechanics and netrunner playstyle, I was having a lot of fun going intelligence cool and some tech. You really didn't need any skill points in pistols at all. I was still hitting for 4 to 5k headshot criticals. All the power came from the coolline and getting much better silencers. One thing about the stealth play though, that I didn't like, was no matter what weapon you had in your hand, it always seemed to have the same break their neck or strangle them to unconsciousness. I would have loved to have seen some different variants depending on the weapon you were holding at the time. I still had a lot of fun with the gameplay aspects of the game, but there was definitely room for a lot of improvement there. Now let's move on to vehicles. Pretty standard issue, vehicle play, you can tell it wasn't a priority. Not being able to steal cars and keep them for yourself would have gone a long way with this. There's not really much else to say about him, it's pretty standard in every game. So for the final part of this review, we move on to the loot, weapons, armor and clothing. Most of the game, I was running around like a multicolored Christmas tree. I would have liked to have seen some sort of transmog system in the game, so even if you find a low level piece that looks amazing, you could still use that to wear and look good. Even if you upgrade those pieces, they weren't the best as only certain pieces had the space for growth with open slots to fit the modules in. But I suppose this really wasn't a big deal since there was not really any third person view unless you looked in a mirror or rode a motorcycle, but it would have been nice to see. All in all, despite my gripes, I had a lot of fun getting to know the characters in Cyberpunk, the many weird and wonderful personalities from the mental Lizzie Wizzy to the depressed Evelyn. And I was stuck to my seat through most of the main story, enjoying nearly every minute of it. I would have loved to have seen some more die-hard consequences to my actions in the main story rather than it really only affecting side quests and even then only conversational differences. You could still easily get through the quest with different dialogues. But it is definitely worth the playthrough. There was way more good than bad. I just thought I would be honest in my review and let you know the bad side rather than being paid to blow smoke up someone's ass. I really hope they expand on the playthrough with DLC, allowing you to do the rise to the top with Jackie, getting you to know and understand his character more. Give way more choices and consequences to actions in future storylines. Definitely expand on the story further so we know what happens to V. He's still got a death sentence, so there's definitely room for more there. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on the storyline and the gameplay of Cyberpunk 2077. Do you agree or disagree? Remember, this is only one man's opinion, and you may have a completely different experience than me. If you did find this review informative, please remember to like and sub to the channel if you'd like to see more about RPGs. Fly safe.